we've talked earlier this week about teams that missed the playoffs last year that could make it. And I like the Cardinals as a potential team to look at, to bet. I think it was like plus 320 or whatever it was, depending on where you're looking. But that also means, like, there can be teams, Trysta, that don't make the playoffs this coming season that did last year. I think the place that you look first would be the AFC because it's so stacked, it's so loaded. There's a lot of young quarterbacks there. You and I talked about the Colts and their potential to kind of really take that next leap with, actually having your franchise quarterback, healthy for the entire season. You certainly hope that that's the case. I think, though, one of the first ones I think of when I think of team that made the playoffs last year that could miss it this year, crowded conference, it all comes together. And I hate to say it, but the Bills.
Yeah.
The Bills at plus 134 to miss the playoffs. Yeah.
Last year. They almost, it was, 5 consecutive weeks of must-win games? I was on WGR every week, and they're like, Trysta.
Yeah.
Like, starting in week 6, fans were like, I don't know if we're making the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, guys, you're going to make the playoffs. Every week, Trysta, give us hope. Are we going to make the playoffs? So,
did you give them hope every week?
I did.
Good
I
for
said,
you.
listen, it's Josh Allen, man. Stop sleeping on that man. But you lose Stephon Diggs, and that's a big loss. And you lose out on Gabe Davis. He moves on. Those are 2 of your top receivers. I love Khalil Shakir. Good player. You got 2 tight ends that can catch the ball. Dalton Kincaid, Dawson Knox. James Cook still there. Obviously, Josh Allen's still a running threat. But that defense, man, that defense gives me great pause. You lost multiple key players on that defense, and then you have Von Miller, who's just not himself.
Yeah.
He's just not that guy anymore. He can't get to the quarterback. He's had multiple years of injuries back-to-back, and who knows what we're getting out of him. So when you lose 2 key guys from your offense, and then you bring in a rookie that, James Cole, who we love, friend of the show, thinks is a project in Keon Coleman, I could absolutely see the Bills missing the playoffs. I could also see the Dolphins missing the playoffs. Plus 110 for no. They were also a team that started off very hot, that needed to win games down the stretch, and they just kept being like, okay, this is the game that we clinch, and then they lose that one. This is the game that we clinch, and then they lost that one. They've got a new defensive coordinator. They lose some key guys on the defense. They've got a bunch of guys coming back from significant injuries in Bradley Chubb and Jalen Phillips. They lost Andrew Van Ginkel. It's just one after another. So I'm a little bit confused about how good the secondary is going to be. So I could see the Dolphins and the Bills missing the playoffs, both at plus money, especially if, and everybody's been, like we talked about this earlier last segment, people have been high on the Jets. If the Jets get in, I think it shoves one of those teams out.
The Dolphins were a team that left so much to be desired,
Totally.
right? We watched them, and they beat the hell out of the Broncos, and they're putting up 70 points, and we're going, oh, my God. Then you watch the defense, and you question things. And then you see them in games against teams that are playoff-bound, not good. You see them in pressure situations where it's, hey, this is your chance. You can clinch a playoff spot. Nope. Okay. Well, next week you can clinch a playoff spot. Now, it doesn't help that at the end of the year their defense, you're pulling guys off the street. Their defensive line was literally guys that weren't in the NFL at the moment anymore. They're throwing them out there like, can you give us a few snaps?
Melvin
can you give us
Ingram.
something? Yeah. Melvin Ingram at one time, pretty damn good pass rusher, but it's not the same Melvin Ingram anymore. Probably to the even lower level of Von Miller, and you talk about the decline.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the way that it goes. You got to find anybody that you can.
If the Knicks were to move on to the Eastern Conference Finals, we know what the Celtics are on paper, but we know what their reputation is also, where they play with their food a little bit. How do you think this Knicks team matches up? Say they do get OG Anunoby back. How do you think this Knicks team matches up with the Celtics, given this grit and try-hard ability that they have?
Yeah. Now, again, I'm not counting before they hatch. I got it. But I do think the Knicks win the series. I'm less convicted that they win tonight, but I do believe that they advance, right? So the Knicks have played them very well during the regular season. It's a matchup thing. Jason Tatum is a spectacular talent. Jason Tatum doesn't always answer the bell. That's also a matter of fact there. And I like the way you describe that. They kind of play with their food, finish the meal. They're toiling with their fork and pushing around the Brussels sprouts and whatever they don't want to eat. And when you do that, a team with heart and gumption and, again, connectivity like the Knicks have, boy, you leave that door ajar for the far less, in terms of depth and even superior talent-wise, a team like the Knicks to steal one of those first two. And then I think if you do that, now you get back to the Garden, and now, and I can't believe that I've said this again all week, and we don't think about this as New Yorkers because, most sports fans don't, because you either win or you don't. But the level of accomplishment with these guys, God, I hate to even say this again out loud, but if they do advance and they don't beat the Celtics, listen, Trysta, my style on the air. I'm loud, like Sal, unapologetic, we demand things, right? I could not levy an ounce of criticism to the Knicks unless they weren't getting back on defense or they just showed, outward softness, which is never going to happen. Sometimes you lose. Sometimes the deck is stacked against you. And this isn't CYO or high school where, a system can maybe will you past a point that you're probably not really supposed to be at. But I also said that several times to myself during the year when they had 3 or 4 different Knick teams. And that's the amazing thing about this team. You start with Randall, you start with Barrett, obviously Brunson, you have Barrett, you have Randall healthy, and you have Quickly, who's a machine coming off the bench. Right, boom, Barrett gone, Quickly gone, trade. Now you have a little experiment, Randall, OG, Brunson. It absolutely clicks. They look like the best team in the NBA, and they were. They destroyed the Timberwolves. They smacked the Denver Nuggets at home, and they looked like they could maybe mess around and win a championship this year. Then Randall gets hurt late stage against Miami Heat. And then they've got to adjust without him, and it wasn't easy, but they played well without Randall. And when they had OG, that OG gets hurt. Now you got to find out a new configuration and stretch a little deeper down the bench. And Ashooh got a lot of minutes. He played 40 minutes, I think 8 or 9 times during that stretch when OG was out. Here's the bottom line with this team and any team that's trying to win a championship. Do you have a closer? Yes. Do you have a really good coach? Yes. Do you play defense? Yes. Do you rebound the ball? No doubt. Do you have enough shooters to space? They absolutely, a little streaky, but they got shooters everywhere. And, with OG, and I do think he would certainly be back for the Celtics series, maybe even Game 7 if it gets there Sunday. I'm not saying he's going to hold Jason Tatum to 19 points a game. Tatum's not dropping 40 on him, and then you throw him on Jaylen Brown, he's going to make his life tough, provided that hamstring is good to go. So they've got the components to at least scare the Celtics. And then, the public criticisms, everybody kind of behind the little engine that could. Celtics supposed to win. At that point, collars get tight. Who knows what happens?
Former team for Aaron Rodgers was the Green Bay Packers. Now it's the Jets. And the Jets are favored in 14 games this season. Look, we know the hype's going to be there. We know all the national TV games they have, and rightfully so. And the one, who was it, whatever that guy is that's head of NFL broadcasting or something, said, the Jets owe us. It's a great quote. But at the same time, I think we probably all do have our questions, specifically that offensive line. I don't care what they did in terms of additions. I've seen those guys play, and a lot of them are injury prone. Are you as high on the Jets as, what it feels like everybody else in America at this point?
I am higher on the Jets than everyone else in America.
Okay.
I actually can't believe that more people are not talking about the Jets. It is New York. It is Aaron Rodgers. How are we not talking about the team that I think, on paper, if healthy, and I know that's 2 really big asterisks, but if healthy, I think they're as good as anybody in the AFC. They have an elite defense that was incredible last year despite the worst DVOA offense in the league, despite the worst quarterback situation in the league. We don't know what Aaron Rodgers will be, but I do know this. If he's healthy to play, I at least have to give him credit for being, a top 10 quarterback? And if you go from being the worst quarterback in the NFL, what the Jets were last year, to top 10 and a bottom 10 offensive line, to adding Tyron Smith, stud left tackle, getting back Elijah Vera-Tucker, using a first rounder on a lineman. That offense is loaded now. You added Mike Williams. You got Garrett Wilson, I think an offensive player of the year candidate. You got Breece Hall, and you have a great defense. I don't love the coaches. I don't love backing the coaches. But to me, the Jets are a team that you should be buying futures on right now, but not the median kind. I would not take a Jets over. I think the Jets are more likely to go under. What I want is the tail. I want the high-end outcome. I want Jets to win the AFC, Jets to win the Super Bowl. I know that the most likely scenario is going to be bad. My ticket's going to go up in flames. But if I hit that top 5 percentile, and that's all we care about as bettors, right? We just want the really good outcome. The Jets' really good outcome is really, really good. I think as good as anyone in the NFL, and I think people should be talking more about the Jets, not less.